Yeah, nobody calls me that.
That's why I didn't want to assume.
No, nobody calls me
All right,
Alexandria
cool.
unless I'm in trouble,
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
like
with my
Greg and
mother.
Gregory for me. Yeah, for sure. Okay, Allie Medina, welcome to the Square Pizza Pod.
Hi. Yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for joining. I think let's level set for our podcast listeners here. You're coming from Oakland, is that right?
I am. I'm in my home office in Oakland, California.
That's nice.
Been here in Oakland for about 30 years. It's sort of
Okay.
my chosen home. I'm a Californian through and through. I'm from LA originally.
Yeah.
But I went to Cal in the 90s and have lived here since I met my husband at Cal, and we have 2 kids. They're in Oakland Public Schools, OUSD Public School, and they go to the same school, which I'm very lucky about for now. Yeah.
That's so cool. And let's start with easy stuff today.
Yeah.
First, happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Same to you and everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. We're big Valentine's Day celebrators.
Those that celebrate. Yeah, somebody asked if I did Valentine's for my team, and I was like, I didn't, but maybe I should. But I don't. That's a separate conversation. I love them very much, but no Valentine's for me at the moment.
That's so cute. Yeah, I have kids. I have little kids. So, and my mom actually, Valentine's is her like favorite holiday.
Really? That's great.
Yeah, it's so cute. I just think it's like, it's just like it's so not stressful for her because it's the grandkids and the kids and, as opposed to all the other holidays are always something, so.
I mean, worse things to celebrate than love,
right? Than love. God forbid we lead with love, right?
And maybe speaking of love, maybe not, depending upon how you answer this question. I don't know if you're a football fan or not, but no, there was a team from California that recently had a football game. Don't know if you were rooting for them or what side you were on, but curious what you thought if you watched the Super Bowl.
Well, I'll be honest, I'm a Raider fan. And so Raider fans are a funny bunch because like no matter what, we show up when we're a Raider fan. But I do want to say, after 30 years living here, we have actually, as an organization, the Oakland Ed Fund has really become great partners with the 49ers. And
cool.
they just gave us a big grant.
Oh, great.
African American Female Excellence Department at OUSD last year. And they're such a classy organization. They had us to a gala and we brought students, and they were just some of the most classy, thoughtful, welcoming folks. I couldn't believe it. It was just such a treat. And so I think the 49er organization has won me over for sure. And so I'm not quite I don't consider it such a rivalry as I used to, if you can see that.
Well, that makes sense. That's so nice.
Yeah.
Quick context. So the 49ers defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes, went to West Charlotte High School where I used to teach. We're 30 years difference, but that's my connection to him. So rooting for him. And he was the interim head coach for the Panthers. And many people, including myself, wish he would have been chosen to stay to coach, but rooting for him and the Niners for a number of reasons, but great to hear. They're such a classy bunch.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. We still talk about it. Like my husband and we can't believe it that we're like, okay, all right, we'll give the Niners not such a hard time.
Funny how that happens when you mix in kids and education, right?
Welcome to being a grown up too, I guess. Right?
Yeah. Well, it's a good segue because, many people know you for your work as the executive director of the Oakland Public Education Fund, which is a super cool organization. We got a chance to talk to you a while ago in support of another client that we're working with, similar but different in Pennsylvania. But just like these intermediary funds across the country that are raising money to support a lot of different initiatives in their communities, I think for me and many people listening, it's just super cool. So really excited to chat more with you today. But before we get into all that, I think you were at the Public Education Fund for a little bit, but then in April of 2020, which was a super chill time in our world, you became the executive director, if our research is correct. So I guess verify if that's true and kind of tell us what those first 60, 90 days was like at the helm given COVID.
Yeah, I mean, You know, people have asked me this before, and I always draw a blank, and I think it's because I kind of have blacked it out a little bit.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
have glimpses of like the chaos of the emotional chaos that we were all under, and also the intense needs that came about, right? And you know, we thought it was 3 weeks, right? Everybody says like we're going on a 3 week spring break, no big deal. And then, you know, I had a third grader at the time and a 1 year old. And so I was like, I had to take care of her. We were really lucky at the Ed Fund. We were all cloud based already.
Mm.
So within 2 days, we had moved virtual. So that all worked and was a total blessing.
Good for
But
you.
I think, yeah, our IT director is amazing,
Mm.
and the all our former ops staff and stuff that like built the Ed Fund in this way, I
Mm.
think just set us up in a different way than a lot of nonprofits. Even my previous nonprofit
Wow.
wouldn't, I just don't know that they could have done all this, right? So, and then I think, you know, we had two main things, right? We had to like figure out how to keep people paid, um, analyze, you know, by analyzing how much revenue we were suddenly going to lose. And the second thing was, what are we going to do about families of our kids, and how are we going to get them to learn?
Mhm.
Because we quickly knew, I mean, right? It took about a month, and then you're like, this is not going to end for a really long time.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think because we were able to move remotely from work, I mean, once I got the blackness, I came out of the fog for a sec there.
Mhm.
We really were able to just like hone in on those two things and just like be single driven to those two objectives. And at the time we have a lot of fiscally sponsored project staff. So
Mm.
we had, you know, almost 200 staff to worry about
And
besides
maybe
our.
real quick
Yeah,
for those
yeah.
less familiar with what fiscally sponsored staff entails,
Yes.
give the friendly audience context, please.
Yeah. So one of the Ed Fund is a fundraising organization
Mhm.
primarily, right? We fundraise to bring equity to Oakland Public Schools. We know, right? Everybody knows that kids who come to school with less need more. And therefore, we really drive our fundraising efforts around that. And one of the things we do that in multiple ways. So when we say fundraising, we're talking material, we're
Mhm.
talking human time, volunteers, and we're talking about dollars, of course, you know.
Yep.
But the other thing that we do is we are a fiscal sponsor. So we lend our 501c3 to individuals or other entities so that they can live out their nonprofit and charitable projects with much more ease than starting their own 501c3s. And a lot of the reason is because they start with a small idea and a small amount of money. And then they decide, you know, I'm going to really grow this puppy.
Mhm.
And then they'll spin out and become their own. Or for, um, for government agencies or other for-profit entities, they don't want to have, can't or don't want to have their own 501c3s, right? So what we do is we enter into an agreement on a charitable grant and donation basis only. And we help them spend their dollars. And one of the ways we do that is we hire people.
Mhm.
Um, so we're sort of like um, an external HR organization as well.
And so that obviously, given COVID, given your kind of additional leadership role, assuming the new AD role, and then these projects, to your point, that's almost 200 people on payroll that you have to make sure are being paid, but then also, of course, safety concerns and everything else with COVID. So
Yeah.
not as easy 90 days under that leadership, right?
I'm in my home office, and I always joke that like I make this face and then I put my hands out like in a locked key position, that I lived like this for 15 hours a day, and then I'd go downstairs and like maybe see my daughter and maybe
Yeah.
go to bed, and then like you know,
Right again. Yep.
resume Frankenstein at your computer. we were on, I mean, and I know everybody I worked with in Oakland was on calls and Zoom
Mm-hmm.
back to back to back for like 15 hours a day sometimes. Like I'd be on at 10 o'clock at night with chief of staff of OUSD. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, funders, like we were just the city of Oakland, like it was insane.
Yep.
So because we ran two really big campaigns at the same time, which was a COVID cash assistance and a COVID rapid relief campaign that included cash assistance,
Mm-hmm.
and Oakland Undivided, which was the big giant citywide initiative to get computers and hotspots out to kids.
Yeah, can you say more about that? Because I think it was, in research, what, 10, 13 million, 20,000, I think, student computers we saw. So a pretty robust response
Yeah.
to stand up and support the school district and the students and kids, of course, that were experiencing lack of internet connectivity because of COVID, but other factors, of course. Yeah, please expound upon that.
Yeah. So, immediately we launched a COVID campaign in partnership with OUSD, brought in, a few million immediately, which was just exciting. And then a big piece of that was cash assistance. And we actually did cash assistance for the entire Oakland public school network. So that included all the charter schools, whether they were chartered in Oakland or not. If you had a charter
Mhm.
school, a public charter school here in Oakland, we made sure, percentages and student
Yep.
populations and got dollars to every school. So we got that done. And then at the same time, the mayor at the time, Libby Schaff, and her Department of Education staff members were actually, we're a fiscal sponsor for
Mhm.
Department of Education. So we worked really closely with a lot of her staff, and they came to us along with OUSD, and we ended up creating a really big, robust leadership committee of stakeholders and partners. The Oakland Reach, who I think Lakeisha Keita
Shout out
Brown.
to Lakeisha, yeah, previously on the
Was
podcast. That's
on
right.
it. Yeah.
That's right.
I was
Yep.
just on a call with Lakeisha yesterday. She's
Oh,
amazing.
great. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
she's amazing. And Tech Exchange, and I mean, all of these folks from the mayor's office and from the Ed Fund, and we really came together and just said, of course, the superintendent, chief of staff from OUSD, their IT folks, their, CTO, I mean, you
Yeah.
name it. And we, we were like, I say often, like I had to run the Ed Fund and then a 50% other job, which was Oakland Undivided. And so, it really started out as like a call to action that we knew right away, like by the end of May, that we needed to get together to get computers funding in so that we could get computers and internet connectivity to every kid in an Oakland public school. And we had to start with data. We had folks working on data. Like we think initially only 27%, I think it was, maybe a little higher in the 30s, but only a very small percentage of students in Oakland were connected. Either they didn't have a device, they didn't have internet, or they didn't have both.
Yep.
And my own included, right? I had a third grader. Why would she need a laptop at 8? And they maybe had internet laptops in their classrooms, but we didn't have one in the house. We're always trying to get our kids off the internet, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and
so we really just put this like really huge team of this brain trust of people together that were like very driven, very single-minded. We got this together, and we were really fortunate that Kyla Johnson Trammell, our superintendent, and Mayor Libby Schaff really put the call out, and we ended up raising in like a month and a half $13 million. 10 million came in from Jack Dorsey.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the funny story with that is that he had like put out a Google Doc and was like, put in what you need. I think, and Libby went in and put like, I need 10 million for computers for kids, and he gave it to us. Wow. So I know. And so then the real work got started, which was building the infrastructure, the systems, the
Sure.
I said, like, we were knitting the sweater while we were wearing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
And
metaphor.
I literally lived with these folks on the computers. Like, I'm one of my dearest friends now. I
Mhm.
really only know over the internet because she was an OUC employee living in another city, a
Oh,
contractor at
wow.
the time, and we all just spent so much time together. She had a baby during the next year during COVID, and we were like, "Oh, you're gonna name it, Undivided, like Baby Undivided, Baby OU." It was like we had a baby.
That's so great. Yeah.
So it was, I mean, it was hard. I was making crazy decisions that I just can't believe. And I really want to give a shout out to my board of directors. They
Yeah.
really took such a risk. And there's a lot of lawyers on my board. Shout out to the lawyers.
Probably smart.
And they do not
Probably
like
smart.
risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't like risk. And so what I was really excited about was that they really rolled up their sleeves and were like, we're going to do this. We could be liable for a lot of problems.
Mhm.
It's just everything comes up, right? Signing a liability waivers, when you pick up your laptop, the telecommunications contract with T-Mobile, who who gave us just like this incredible rate for internet, and hotspots for every kid. I mean, we literally, our board really took a huge risk, and we really, again, knitted that sweater while we wore it. But if we just kept the call to action in mind and the end result, I mean, it was a huge game changer. So
Yeah, that's so cool to hear. I appreciate you sharing the process because it's so much
yeah,
more, right, than just like money, computers, peace out, right? There's like a lot of logistics that some people may not understand.
yeah,
And I'm curious too if you can share. So, like you and many leaders in this space, in terms of kind of intermediaries that come alongside school districts or charters, are in a really unique space where you are connected to schools, connected to educators, but also the corporate community, which
mhm,
sometimes has money and it sometimes has the best interest at heart to fund and
yeah,
support a lot of great initiatives that are needed or not well funded through traditional systems. So curious, if you can just share, like, whether it's in the Oakland community or more general, like what is striking a chord with local corporations,
yeah.
and kind of how you guys are funneling their interest and their money on to benefit kind of core issues affecting schools and affecting students and families in Oakland.
Yeah. I'm always pretty amazed at corporate giving.
Hmm.
And I think, you know, um, yes, I want to say this, right? The naysayers immediately, let's just dispel, right?
Yeah, sure, please.
We know sometimes they have to.
Yep.
Of course, it's by law, it's required. It's also, but you know what it is? It's really how they do it is driven by
Mhm.
real people and real people who care. I
Mhm.
was just it's so funny you asked this. I just went to a Northern California grant makers
Mhm.
summit in December, and it was all corporate, and
Mhm.
we had three amazing panels. It was really small for, summit
Yeah.
for a typical conference type thing, really intimate. And there was folks from Google. I mean, we're talking like the big folks, right?
Yep.
And I, in particular, what's one of the panels that struck me that I sat at was around emergency response.
Mm.
And PayPal was sitting on that panel, and PayPal owns Venmo, or owned
Mhm.
Venmo at the time. And we were able, with their permission, to kind of bend their own make their rules flexible.
Mm.
We were able to deliver cash assistance payments by Venmo to people.
Wow.
Yes,
Cool.
during
Yeah,
our COVID
perfect.
pandemic. When
Yeah.
you talk about rapid cash assistance in an emergency, we're not like 3 years later, the government caught up to itself, which we knew was gonna happen.
Mhm.
But what corporate was able to do in that instance, and where they really, like, won me over, was like, "Hey, we have this product. It's a crisis. We're gonna let you do this amount per month and make it more flexible." So literally, we had Venmos connected to our systems. You have to talk to your lawyers, you got to talk
Right.
to your accountants, and you got to make
Yeah,
sure it's
that's right.
fair.
Yeah.
But truly, like, it's all audited. We want to make sure the tracking's good. But it was so important, because you may not remember this, but that's when they were taking mailboxes, right? There was like a whole postmaster
Oh,
general.
sure. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yep.
Right.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
let's be
Yep.
honest, like, right, they were limiting people's access to
Yep.
voting, and all
Mhm.
kinds of things going on at that time that was really just unconscionable.
Yeah.
And so what was happening was checks were getting lost in the mail. And we, at 1 month, we had 50 checks come back. I think I had 50 checks come back ever.
Hmm.
And so it became really, really, really important that we do that. We also used uh, Cash App. Like we worked with Square, who is
Yep.
now in Oakland,
Sure.
and they're big supporters. And they, the folks that run the giving in at Square, they're Oaklanders. So I think like these are real people who have real feelings that can do real work to push the bigger systems to do the right thing, right? And if they don't come at it, if we don't acknowledge that and look at it like that, yes, corporations are corporations, but there's people running them, then you really lose out on the opportunity for your work to get funded and also to be supported and cheered on, even just cheerleading, right? We all need a good cheerleader in the nonprofit industry.
Yeah.
And they set a really great example. I want to say, like, as a woman in a nonprofit role, leadership role for the first time, I kind of came from like the if you're not killing yourself, you're not working hard enough mentality.
Yeah. Burnout
And
mentality. Yeah.
it's the burnout mentality, right? I know. Last year I was like, I'm really tired, guys. I think it's time to slow down finally. But I really have been able to
Yeah.
watch a lot of these corporate women leaders in these roles. I just saw Kate, I forget her last name. She was at the she spoke at the Microsoft Global Nonprofit Leaders Summit that I went to last month in Seattle, and she's like their chief philanthropy officer. Like what a amazing woman. She talked about having lunch with her daughter, and like her daughter didn't like what she was wearing. I mean, just like normal people, right? Normal people, and they have to have they are setting the bar for the rest of us to say, we know you have families, we know you need a personal life. Work smarter, not harder. So.
Yeah, it's great to hear, and that context is helpful. And I think as we've done more of this work across the country, but even just through my own experience, I think the more the cities that where their kind of domains and the sectors are connected is where a lot of cool initiatives can not just happen but continue to flourish. So I guess we'd all like to think that every corporate community talks to every education local system and they work together because of future workforce development initiatives, and they're in the same city and tax bases, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we all know without mechanisms like your guys's, they don't happen just organically. Everybody has jobs, they work in isolation. So so cool to hear the meaningful work you're doing, but also the corporate community has the right mindset towards the work you're doing, and then the work you're leading as a woman as well.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we're really, I think we're, like you said, these as an intermediate organization, we've really started to say like we're a connector. That's what we do. It's okay. Let's use that word to describe ourselves, right? And I'm a connector as a person. If you've ever done the Gallup Strengths Finder, that's one of my top 5. And positive is number 1. Let's be honest. And the connected.
I'm getting that vibe.
Right? And connectedness is in that top 5. And part of it is that I personally love to do this, but I think that's why I love my job so much is because I'm in the right role for the right organization. That's also a connector. And it's tiring, like I was like, okay, every day, like, let's go.
There's a limit.
Right. I got to talk to people. But then I'm like, I know how to power down now. I used to just go till I collapsed. But I think it's really important, right? And I think the other thing we say as an intermediary in Oakland is somebody has to be Switzerland, right? And it's okay. Like I think I came from a social justice organization. I was on the ground. I worked in 4 Oakland schools, at public high schools. I worked in other school districts, and the ability to be Switzerland and neutral and not always have an opinion about everything is actually really good for the city and the other systems so that they can, flex their muscles in their expertise areas to work out the details. And then we're here to help. Or we're here to, do you need to know, what do you need to know about? Sure. I ran into I met some lady in a coffee shop yesterday, and she's like, you work in a nonprofit? I'm having a hard time finding a job. I'm like, here's my card, call me.
That's awesome.
there's an
Yeah.
ecosystem of us, and I think it's really important that somebody be able to be like, your work is amazing. That's not our expertise, but if we can help you, you let me know.
Mhm. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I mean, it's a good metaphor. Sometimes we use that at Shermco because when we're working with clients or maybe intermediating between them and a funder, we can be, Switzerland and push the right levers to help both, come to a resolution, whether it's funding or something else. So
Yeah.
sometimes there's power in being Switzerland.
Yeah, and I
But
think our instincts are to have opinions. I have a lot of them, trust me.
yeah.
But, does the organization need an opinion about that? Probably not, you know?
Mm-hmm. Ali, I'd love to. So much of it, I think your success up until this point has been around data, and you've spoken about it previously, and kind of in I think the work that you do. And this could probably be a podcast episode in itself. And I have strong opinions, probably similar to yours around data. But yeah, we'd love to just hear kind of why that's just the data piece is so important to you, and how you as a leader use that in your like nonprofit intermediary work day to day.
Yeah, I mean, I started teaching in 2000, but before that, I worked for education, a research policy organization here in Oakland,
Okay.
Social Policy Research Associates, and so I really came into the
You did
on the
policy first, then teacher.
yeah, I did
That had to
policies
be such an
at
interesting
entry
transition from,
level.
like, policy to
Yeah.
classroom. That's
Yeah, and
cool.
I mean,
Great.
I love SPR. They're still some of my favorite folks, and that work there really influenced me to go into the field, into on the ground, because I'm like, I don't really have a lot of life experience. I'm 21 years old, and I was literally like in the governor's office in Texas evaluating their Workforce Investment Act implementation while George Bush Jr. was running for president.
Mm,
And I realized, like, I mean, I'm book smart and I'm driven and all that. And this is probably the most interesting story I'm gonna have
yeah,
ever. But I really need to see it from people's point of view that do the work.
good for you.
And so, also I'm so social, especially in my 20s, right? And so it made sense for me to go work with kids and get in on the ground. And then when I became a teacher, that's when like No Child Left Behind came out. So like data, testing, assessments, it's all really controversial. I still have a lot of feelings about all of it.
Mm,
But I do know if you use it correctly and you use the right tool, and it's not like, to use to punish schools
yeah,
or
yeah,
kids.
yeah.
The high school exit exam, don't even get me started on that. It was an abomination in the state of California to force kids to take an exit exam.
Mm,
But what it did was it forced the I think it forced a lot of us to understand data and
mm,
what good can come from data. There's bad data, and there's people who do want to do bad things with data.
mm,
But if you use it correctly, it's like a lot like what they talk about with AI, right? It's like all this data and information, and it just needs to be in the right people's hands with some safeguards, right? And so, and then, I was really lucky to be in my previous organization. We were a grantee in a cohort that was 15 nonprofits were funded in a cohort of this multi-funder project called Propel Next. So it
mm.
was Edna McConnell Clark Foundation
Yeah,
and
okay.
4 other funders. Um, Locally, it was Sobrato and Hewlett, and then we were in a 3 years. It was like I got a master's. I said like a PhD.
Yeah,
I do joke about that stuff. I'm like, I have a PhD in Propel Next, and we basically were taught really intensely how to really review data, implement a
mm,
data process. We built data systems that they paid for.
wow.
We learned how to evaluate our data and then to make organizational and project changes and programmatic changes based on the data,
Yeah,
both in the moment and short term and long term. Theories of change, theories of action. Like it was, we had coaches, we had a data coach, and we had a program coach. Like it
wow.
was really insane. Yeah,
Great.
it was really fun to work with these other exciting CBO partners. They were so lovely. And I'm still in touch with some of them. We're, shocking again, I love to make friends.
Connecting, that's right.
Yeah, and I like community. And I've called some of them. I actually ran into somebody from Hewlett the other day. I was
Oh
like,
wow.
are you guys, were you there when they were funding Propel Next? And she was like, I came on right as that was tail ending. I'm like, no way. It was really so yeah, I think that's where I decided in my next life I'm going to come back as a data person.
I think you already got that going a little bit.
Yeah,
I think you got that going a little bit.
One of my favorite people I've ever had to hire ended up being one of my favorite people ever. But I imagine I'm like a teacher. I ran after school programs. I worked in, these little small cities. And then they were like, hey, you have to hire like a data manager.
Mm-hmm.
What do they do? Like, what does that person do? And I think there's a lot of Googling, right? And we ended up hiring a PhD student in Cal, from Cal. And yeah, Amy, she's brilliant. I think she works for some big time research firm now. She moved to Chicago, and so she's in the Midwest, back home in the Midwest. But yeah, I mean, I still to this day say I still text her on Pi Day. But that's what I'm telling you. Data, when you get it, when you really get it, it seeps into you, and then you can't avoid it. You can't not see it.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's great.
Yeah. So, I know it's so unfancy and unfun.
No, it's important. I mean, I very long story, but yeah, I played football in college, and I didn't connect that to data by watching film, but you have certain games, you have a certain amount of snaps. You start looking at ratios of what the other team's going to do, how often they're going to run the ball, pass the ball. But a lot of that data then translated into teaching for me around reps and practicing and exit slips for students and how likely they were to master objectives, right? But then now as the business owner here, how we have different data sets as a business owner compared to when I was a teacher. So to your point, 10 years ago, if you're you're going to love data, I was like, get the hell away from me. There's no chance I'm going to like data. But how important it is, it's critical, right? It's critical. Cool. Okay. A few maybe hopefully fun and rapid fire questions for you. A few words to describe your feelings towards AI.
It's our imperative to make sure it works to democratize society.
Great. What can the listening audience do to support you and the Oakland Public Education Fund?
You can go to our website, oaklandedfund.org. You can, from there, you can donate materials. You can donate your time. We have 16,000 volunteers that have been cleared with us over the last, I would say, 8 years. Wow. We have about 8,000 active cleared volunteers right now in Oakland schools. And then, of course, fundraising. If you'd like to donate to anything, we can help you connect with a school directly. A program of, the Oakland Arts Department is amazing. And I'm not just saying that because my daughter's in the band at her middle school, but they are. And I know, but we can really help, speed date and match you with something that you really want to give to, or you could give an unrestricted gift to the Ed Fund and let us decide. There's
love those. Yeah, love those. Yeah. What musical artists are you listening to right now?
Well, I'm a big Deadhead, a big Grateful Dead fan, and I love the band Fish.
Yeah.
With the PH, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm actually going to Mexico on Saturday to go to their big Mexico festival for the first time ever.
Wow. Fish has a Mexico festival?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's kind of crazy. We've never gone before, but we're going to go. It's my husband's 50th birthday.
Yeah.
So we're all going to go, a bunch of us. Yeah. Wish me luck. I'm already tired thinking about it, but I'm excited and I'm tired. I think I'm a little nervous in general. So yeah, I've been listening to a lot of that. And then of course, because I'm like, okay, I got to get back in my mode. And then the other thing that I love yacht rock.
Yacht rock. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you go from a little bit of spectrum from Grateful Dead to yacht rock.
I know. It's a kid of it's because I'm a Gen Xer, right? So that was our music. I just went and saw Christopher Cross for the first time.
I don't know. You're missing me with that one. Who's that?
Takes me away.
Oh yeah, say okay,
Yeah,
great.
you'll know all his songs. You'll know it. You know them. You don't know you know them, but
But you know them. They're there somewhere.
yeah. Oh my god, it was such a great show. I was like in tears and so excited. So
I can't wait to hear. You have to let us know how the festival is when you come back at some point.
thanks. Hopefully, I'm gonna get a tan. That's what I'm most excited
Be
about.
great. I mean, you're gonna connect with people. You're gonna be extroverted. You're gonna forget you're tired. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna
okay,
be
last
positive.
question. What does Square Pizza remind you of?
Square pizza. Well, there's a place here called Square Pie Guys.
Oh, great.
It is such good pizza.
Yeah.
I love deep dish. It's Detroit style, right? Detroit.
So I think there is some. The part of the nexus of naming the podcast was around like Square Pizza in schools.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cute.
Thank
I
you.
didn't think about that.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah.
So that was the original nexus, but yeah, then some people, I think, when they hear it, they think Chicago, they think Detroit, they think
Yeah.
deep dish, which that's why we asked the question because it makes people
Right.
think about a
Different
number of
things.
different things based upon their lived experiences.
Well, Oaklanders, we really feel connected to Detroit in a lot of ways. Actually, funny thing, they're one of the only other cities in the country that connected all of their kids to the internet
Oh wow, good to know.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
and got them computers during COVID so that their kids
Wow.
could distance learn. Yeah, I haven't talked to anybody over there or anything, but I read it and I was like, of course, Oakland and Detroit. When the Lions lost, everybody was really, kind of sad for them and felt
Right.
some type of way.
Type of
Here
way,
at least
right.
in town. So yeah.
Yeah, and what we find, answer this for me, maybe last unofficial question. But what we found through asking this question is that Square Pizza and lunches varies by geography. So I grew up in Ohio. They have it in Ohio. They have it in North Carolina. They have it in Tennessee. We found out like Milwaukee, they don't serve Square Pizza. New York, they don't serve Square Pizza. So it's like whoever has like the cafeteria contract for different states determines who's getting a Square Pizza experience in schools or not. So I guess like, do
I'm
they
gonna
serve
ask
it?
my kids when they come home
You
if
gotta
they
ask.
eat the Square pizza. I know they'll eat the pizza at school.
But it's
They go home
different if
for
it's
lunch and then
square and fits in
they
that perfect
decide like, what
rectangle.
am I going to eat from the cafeteria too?
Yeah.
It's always something. I'm going to ask though. I'll text
Let
you.
us know.
Reach
Let
out.
us
I
know.
will.
Okay, Ali Medina, thanks so much for the
Great.
work, for joining. It was so much fun.
It was so nice to talk. Have a good one. Thank you for everything.
You as well. Bye-bye.